Welcome to the NWR Resources Virtual Series. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and next up we have Marvel Gold. The ASX code is MVL. Now, Marvel Gold is a Mali-focused gold explorer, and they've got very advanced gold exploration projects and a really big land holding in South and West Mali. But sit up and take some notice, ladies and gentlemen, because as well, they're doing a spin-off of a graphite project, and that's going to give some really good value to shareholders going forward. Very clever what they're doing. Welcome to NWR, Phil Hoskins, the Managing Director, to talk about the Marvel Gold story and the graphite opportunity.
Hi, Kerry. Thanks very much for that introduction, and thank you, NWR, for the opportunity. Do you want me to launch into it?
Yes, launch in.
All right, excellent. So as Kerry mentioned, we've been a Mali-focused gold explorer for the last 18 months, but we do have a world-class graphite asset that we are spinning off and certainly generating a lot of interest at the moment. It's quite topical, so we'll talk about that today. So we do have the two assets in the two different jurisdictions, but they are soon to become two separate listed entities. So I'll touch on the TABAKOROLE gold project in Mali first. The recent news this morning was we've upgraded our gold resource there to over 1 million ounces, so 1.025 million ounces at 1.2 grams per tonne, so maintain the grade there. Overall, we've increased that resource around 50%, or sorry, 100%. We've doubled the resource since we picked the project up around 18 months ago. Big opportunities for expansion there, and I'll talk about those both near deposit and more regionally, and with one eye on the development in the future. It's very pleasing that the deposit is from surface. We've discovered some new high-grade shallow zones there, and the metallurgy is excellent. So it does have the attributes of something we think can be developed one day. Just on the spin-off, we lodged our prospectus last week, and the really big news from that announcement was the securing of a major ESG fund as a cornerstone investor. And that investor is the Arch Sustainable Resources Fund, who are seeking to raise $400 million, a new ESG private equity fund out of the UK, who have been looking at this asset for 12 months and will be fantastic for that project's development and financing moving forward. The asset itself, 100% owned at the moment. It is world-class, one of the coarsest flake deposits in the world, construction ready, fully permitted, and this is looking to list in November. So the details are all on our website. Marvel will take $2 million in cash and $10 million worth of shares out of the transaction. Down the track, we'll likely look to in specie distribute those shares to shareholders. So I've got two stories within the story today to talk about. Just corporately, because investors could see the value that was going to be unlocked by the transaction we're undertaking, we actually welcomed Delphi Group, a large German institution, as a cornerstone investor recently, and they agreed to come in at a premium, as I said, because they could see the value we're likely to unlock. And so, yeah, as we sit here today, around a 40 mil market cap. We'll touch on the two assets and some peer comps there, but very well funded to undertake the next phase of exploration at the TABAKOROLE project. That $5.7 million there, there's also $2 million to come from the graphite spin-off, like I mentioned. From a board point of view, myself and Chris Van Wyck, the two execs, Stephen Dennis, mining veteran that many people will know, and Andrew Pardy, the ex-CEO of Sentiment, which was a highly successful UK gold producer with a $2 billion market cap. So I think we've got the right team to take the project forward. So just on the graphite stuff to kick off with, obviously that's quite topical at the moment with it being spun off. A bit of a background about the project. It is fully permitted, as I said, mining license and environmental approvals in place. $21 million spent. It is a robust and a deliverable DFS. We did a lot of work on the met test work and pilot plant work and these sorts of things. What sets it apart is the product quality. As I mentioned before, it's equally the coarsest flake product on the planet, but it's also done all the work on confirming that it can produce the value-added applications, that it can work for expandable graphite and graphite foil, fire retardants, lithium-ion batteries, all these sorts of things. We've also got an advanced DFS level value-added product strategy for expandable and micronized graphite. Evolution will also look to bolt on some battery anode material capacity as well soon after listing. So, and an 18-year mine life on reserves only, with excellent scope for improving that moving forward. So it really is an excellent project. This is what it looks like as a $22 million capital raising. I mentioned ARCH, the Sustainable Resources ESG Fund, coming in for $8 million of that. $2 million will be a priority offer to Marvel shareholders, and we've got other investors coming in for the remaining 12. Now, 9.5 million of that will go to paying a historical debt that has encumbered the asset, and you might argue has sought to keep a cap on the valuation of Marvel and that asset within Marvel. And also $2 million going to Marvel itself. And you can see there Marvel taking 50 million shares or $10 million worth of shares as part of the sale as well there. So that's the structure. There's a bit more on the structure here in the timetable. Like I mentioned, it'll be listed in November. And you can see here Marvel ends up with 31%. Most likely soon after IPO, those shares will be distributed in specie to our shareholders. You can see here $21 million EV. This is incredibly cheap compared to our graphite peers, which I'll jump to the next slide and show these. These are a bunch of African and Australian graphite projects. Magnus and EcoGraph up this end also have downstream capability. As I mentioned, Evolution has advanced downstream capability and also looking to add anode materials to that in the near future. You've then got sort of BlackRock and Walkabout, both Tanzanian graphite assets with no downstream plans at this stage, $100 to $200 million market cap. And these are the sorts of sort of valuations that Evolution should be playing in as an unencumbered asset that is ready to go with an excellent cornerstone investor climbing in behind it. I should also mention that cornerstone investor are looking to raise 400 million and subject to meeting further investment hurdles have notionally put aside 25 million US for ongoing financial support for the project. So a really good deal for Evolution and obviously for Marvel. So just changing tack to our gold project in Mali. I mentioned we've been working on this the last 18 months. This slide shows our location in the south of Mali. I'll mainly talk about the TABAKOROLE project today. It sits in a similar structural setting to the Marilla deposit owned by Firefinch. It's a northwest trending structural corridor coming off the big BANNIFIN shear zone, which is the major controlling structure in the south of Mali. Outside of the central TABAKOROLE permit, there's really been no exploration conducted since the 1990s. So we know it's prospective, but we're looking forward to bringing systematic exploration to make additional discoveries outside the 1 million ounce resource we've already developed. This is the resource. As I mentioned, this is hot off the press. It's come out this morning. So we've just over 1 million ounces, 1.025 million ounces at 1.2 grams per tonne. So we've maintained the grade whilst adding the ounces. We're not seeking to drop the cutoff grade or anything like that. The resource extends over a 3.2 kilometre strike. It extends from surface. Roughly a third of it is in indicated, but the areas that are in inferred, mostly this southeastern portion down here, it's only due to drill density. It's a highly consistent deposit, and we're very confident that it'll fold into higher categories as we infill drill at some point in the future. This is a plan view of the deposit. As I mentioned, it sort of runs from the southeast up to the northwest. There has been some incredible hits there over the journey, some of which were before our time of ownership. But yeah, we're now up to over 1 million ounces in this immediate area, and there's still some upside to that, which I'll go through. It is shallow, so 70% of the resource sits within 150 metres of surface. That's 715,000 ounces that is imminently open pittable. We're expecting a low strip ratio, and I'll touch on the real highlight of the field season this year was the discovery of 2 new higher grade zones that are from surface and sit parallel to the main deposit. And the beauty of that is that it's going to lower our strip ratio. We're already going to be sort of digging up these areas, and so it's more ounces per vertical metre, and also giving us some excellent starter pit options. So some really good discoveries, and they continue to be open. So when we talk about the growth opportunities around the existing deposit, these parallel zones do remain open. They've only been modelled to around 100 metre depth. I'll show where they're open. There's additional near deposit discoveries, and I'll also touch on the regional picture. In the last 12 months, we've consolidated an 830 square kilometre land holding, and have many drill-ready targets with similar signatures to Tabakorole. That drilling will commence inside the next month. Just a couple of cross sections. This is the northwest zone. The main deposit runs down here, and on the right-hand side there, you can see the new zone that we've brought in. Obviously, you can see that's going to be good for the strip ratio. Similarly, in the central deposit as well, you can see that these are going to be sitting inside what were going to be open pittable shells. And just moving on to the northwest zone, so the image on the left is a plan view image. On the top part of the image, you can see the block model for what's been brought into the resource, and you can see that it's open. So there's some gaps in between and on one end of that parallel zone. The image on the right shows where that opportunity is, looking at it in long sections, so looking from the north down, and you can certainly see a lot of the higher grade near surface material, the reds and pinks, remain open. And like I said, this is a very likely area for us to have a starter pit. So yeah, some really good hits still open, so still room for resource growth around the main deposit. Just looking back at a more regional scale, so this image shows the 830 square kilometre land holding, 300 square kilometres covered by high resolution ground magnetics, and we've got about 550 square kilometres of soil sampling or soil geochemistry assayed for multi-element. So if I jump over to the next slide, you'll see there's several signatures with a similar signature to Tabakorole. So the Tabakorole 1 million ounce resource in the box at the top, you can see all the white dots showing the anomalism for gold, arsenic, tellurium and tungsten. We've looked at the soils across the rest of our land holding, and you can see there's many areas that are anomalous for those same pathfinders and for gold. So we'll take these data sets, and we've got excellent targets using all of that information to commence drilling inside the next month. So during October, we'll come out with the plans for what we intend to do over the next month. I mentioned with one eye on the future, we have looked at the metallurgy, and almost 97% recoveries from the fresh rock. Shows us non-refractory, but also shows that we'll get away with very simple processing here. We've got low reagent usage, and yeah, all in all, going along with the expected low strip ratio, I think we've got the makings of something that could be developable at some point, but certainly the focus for us at the moment is on resource growth. Just on the peer comps, I showed the graphite peer comps before. I should have mentioned within that obviously Marble has 1 million ounces as well. Likewise here, these are the gold peer comps, and we've got a construction ready DFS level graphite asset sitting within our market cap. So even if you assume that half was graphite and half was gold, that would send Marble's market or Marble's valuation down by half, and right up the right end of this graph, where we don't deserve to be, with over 1 million ounces and growing. So doesn't matter which way you look at us, I think we're a very good value play, and that is the why invest. We are, in my opinion, an outstanding value investment with exposure to Tabakorole, which is 1 million ounces and growing. We are drilling, so we've got some near-term news flow there. But also the exposure to what is a world-class graphite asset and the spin-off into Evolution Energy Minerals. It's going to be very exciting. We've got a great cornerstone in there behind us. It's going to be incredibly tight with a lot of news flow to come as well. So Yeah, again, thanks Kerry for hosting. Thanks NWR for the opportunity to present today. And any questions, please shoot them through.
Thanks, Phil. Well, first of all, congratulate. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to ask a question, pop it in the Q&A chat bar down the bottom there. And I promise you I will put it to Phil, so long as it's clean. Phil, first of all, I'd just like to say congratulations. When I last spoke to you a few months ago, you told me about the graphite spin-off. You told me all the things you were doing, and I thought, goodness me, I wonder whether he's going to get it done in the time frame that he's talking about. And you have. And so I think, you know, kudos to you for doing that. There's a lot of, I guess, the exploration potential at Tabakorole. I hope I said that right.
Got it.
And you've got 1 million ounces there at the moment. You've kept that, maintained that grade. How much are you going to be spending on that exploration potential? What's that news? What does that look like? Because it's quite a large tenement area that you've got.
Yeah, I think our intention for the next field season is to have a multi-purpose RC/air core rig busy for the entire field season. So that'll be chopping and changing between adding ounces in the main deposit area and more regional exploration. We're also looking to have 2 air core rigs arrive in the coming weeks to take some of these vast anomalies and try to bring them down to, well, not something smaller, but something that in terms of saving the drilling dollars, making them a little bit more targeted when we go to that air core or RC. In terms of the budget for that, I think Auger's incredibly cheap. It's worked really well in West Africa. Expecting that for a few $100,000 we could get excellent coverage of all of those anomalies I showed earlier. The air core is roughly I'd say $1 million, and I'd say the RC is probably $1 to $1.5 million. So all in all, we're funded to carry out those programs.
And those programs are starting when and finishing when?
We'll update later this month, but they're starting before the end of October,
Right.
and we'll be running all the way through till July next year. So that's the sort of field season in Mali. And if people can look back on what's been achieved this year, I think when we set ourselves a target, you can have comfort that we're going to deliver.
And speaking of which, some people might not know Tanzania, might not know Mali as a jurisdiction. So as investors, can you just give us a little bit of confidence about the jurisdiction and, you know, the government and support and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd spent 6 or 7 years in Tanzania. It obviously experienced some challenges from 2017. Well, they're working through those. Unfortunately, the president passed away from COVID earlier this year. The new president that's come in has been fantastic at opening up the doors again for foreign investment. And that's been lauded by many investors already in Tanzania. And we've seen special mining licenses being granted to OreCorp and Peak Resources. And certainly on the ground, we've noticed things opening up there. So that's, from a Tanzanian point of view, certainly think that's getting back to being a jurisdiction that the people are happy to be in again. And that's where
your graphite deposit is. So that's deposit,
yeah. And from a Mali point of view, it's been great. We've brought a commercial manager on to help us. That land consolidation is no easy feat, but we've developed an excellent relationship with the ministry. We're able to get licenses sort of put through, and we spend a lot of time down there. But yeah, certainly very happy with Mali, and I think investors in gold exploration are as well. I think it ranks 6th in the world for gold exploration. So yeah, certainly whilst Africa sometimes comes with the risks, the rewards are there in terms of the prospectivity and quality of the projects available.
Well, Phil, once again, I congratulate you on, you know, you're telling the market this is what you're going to do. You've done it. You've done the spin-off of graphite. That's a wonderful return for shareholders once it goes through. There's a lot of news flow coming. Look forward to the next update. Thanks for joining us today, Phil.
Thank you, Kerry.